Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you all being here. We're going to have a fantastic time. Okay. So jumping in, I have a question that I want everyone to just chime in on, and that's, I'm curious to know what we think about the ethics of using AI for content creation and branding, artistry, whatever you call it, right? Some people believe very strongly that if you use AI, you are the spawn of Satan. Like, they believe that that's the original sin that caused the fall of man, right? So what are your thoughts about it? I'll start with you, sir.
Yes. Thank you for that. I think for me personally, I'm not speaking on behalf of Seco generally, but what I see with AI is like we are like in a space where we have these LLMs, I mean large language models, ChatGPT, Cloud, and so many of them. Twitter has Grok now. It's not a bad thing to use AI generally, but the bigger question, and the last section talked about intellectual properties and stuff. I think there is a dichotomy between who actually owns this stuff. Is it the platform giving you the answers, or is it the person putting in the prompt? So for me, I think there is, for platforms like us generally, we use AI. We have an AI lab at Seco. We do a lot of stuff with AI. And I always advocate for ethical use of AI on a platform level. But us individuals, you're a consumer, you can't really do anything about it. But as platforms, you have a responsibility to manage how you do that and how you use that to affect people's life, basically. So for me, I think as individuals, AI helps the argument, just do whatever you want to do. But as platforms, we are held to greater responsibility than the normal individuals.
Absolutely fantastic. I love that ethical responsibility. You have a responsibility to use AI in an ethical manner. All right, so Fiona, what are your thoughts? If only we had AI that will help us turn on the mics.
I agree generally. So I mean, I think AI is no different than the same ethical challenges we had with the internet, right? Even to this day, there's people who use the internet unethically. We have Yahoo boys, we have scammers, we have whatever it is, right? So yes, I think it's just gonna give in with any tool, any technology, we need to do it ethically. I know for us at Pulse, for example, we have journalists. We have a whole team of journalists that are creating content on our website or on our social media pages. And yes, we are using AI in some of that content creation. And one of the things that we do is that if we ever are using AI, it's going to be stated in the article, in the social media post, so people are aware. I think on social, it's where it's more important because there's a lot of tools where, you can make it look like somebody has said something that was not actually said. There's video tools, and that's where it really needs to be stated. Yes, it can be fun, it can be funny, but it's important that from an ethical standpoint, you're letting people know when it's AI and when it's not, and then they can make judgments from there.
All right, thank you very much.
Awesome. I think I agree with what the both speakers said. First and foremost, if you are not using AI right now, it's at your own disadvantage. However, understanding how to use it properly is the best way to go. So I was reading a conversation around somebody who published a book, a novel written by AI. Then the company sued for copyright, right? And this conversation will continue to happen until we have regulatory framework around how these things will work. The last panel we were talking about regulatory framework, and because it's so global, every institution, every country would need to have a local regulation. However, there also needs to be an international framework around it. Because if I use ChatGPT that is not registered as a Nigerian company in Nigeria to write a book around Yoruba culture, how do you want to sue me for that? Right? So understanding how this thing works as an individual, even as a corporate organization, is very important. In my team, I encourage people to use AI. As a matter of fact, if I give you anything, the first thing I will say, what is ChatGPT saying? Then what do you think about it? Right? How does this affect the overall company objective? Because you are supposed to think from the strategic point of view, why AI would think from the tool point of view, right? So I think it's super important, but understanding how to use it as an organization is pretty important, and that's what we need to start talking about.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm going to come back to that, but I just want you to just touch on that as well. As a visual artist, as someone who it feels like the battle with AI is at your doorstep. Artists of all types, shapes have been fighting AI concerning all the things around how the data is sourced in the first place, the consent of even the artists, because sometimes the consent of the owners of these arts is not, they're not gotten before fed into the LLM, right? So what are your thoughts about, I guess, AI in this new age?
Thank you for the question. And I would say that as a visual artist, I mean, from the name visual artist, our works are largely dependent on visual execution. And so as a traditional painter, I don't think AI is a threat. I see it more like a best friend, because AI has only come to like play the role that every other person in your life will play. Like, take for example, you make a write-up and you want someone to vet it for you. That's literally what AI is doing for you. And if you look at your social media platforms, everyone is trying to like incorporate that, just to have everything one step away, basically. So I mean, there are other careers in the art field, creator, and all of that. Possibly it's going to be more of an advantage for them because they do more of words than actual like physical painting or
Yeah, but this is very interesting, right? Because I honestly was expecting you to be like, oh God, all AI must die, you must kill them all. Because that's the sentiment I've seen on my side of the internet, right? And this is for Adegboyega, which is just that as a visual artist, right, do you think of art generated from AI as actual art, right? Or, because, there are folks called prompt engineers, and their job is to feed the best types of prompts or the best types of questions into, whatever language model they're using to get the best results, right? So if they do that and then the person says, oh, man holding gun in front of a baby, but the gun is a chicken and stuff like that, and it brings some fantastical art. So the question is, do you count that as actual art, or is that, to you, it's not real art?
So for traditional painters, I'm a traditional painter, every art piece is supposed to complete a cycle. There are 3 phases to it. The phase of conception, execution of the idea, and then the reception. Now, you have to be honest with this thing for one to be able to receive it. And every artist's joy is when the viewer can relate to what exactly you have done. When there's a gap amongst these 3, you can tell that this person is a con artist. You can just tell. It's like every other musician that's trying to jump on the trending beat. And then you can tell the ones that are quite intentional about their practice. So, it just has to complete that cycle psychologically.
Interesting. Just quick one, guys. Can we hear Adegboyega when he speaks? No? All right. Can we get another mic? Because he's dropping gems here. I think you should be jotting things down, please. Let's get another mic for him. All right. All right. So, Damilola, you had mentioned that your team uses AI. And I was curious about what are some AI strategies that you use in branding and marketing, right? And how, I guess, since you started using it, what would you say has been the difference in the way, I guess, the output of your work looks?
I think I would start with the output. First and foremost, we get more things out in less time, right? So what AI really does is it augments your original idea, right? You don't take it, word for word, and you say you want to implement it. First and foremost, the difference, and I think when we talk about the future of work, is the fact that humans are always going to supersede AI because of the way we think strategically, right? The empathy, the emotion is there. You understand the overall company structure and what exactly the company wants to achieve. What you need to now do is understand how to write a prompt better, right? Get those prompts out, look at the ideas it's giving you, then tailor it to the overall company objective, right? So if a company first and foremost wants to drive acquisition across East African countries, right? Your copywriter don't need to spend 2 days trying to write a copy that's going to go out. You can get that out in 25 minutes, right? First and foremost, you now need to understand, how do I communicate with these people? So what's the language market fit for the market in which we want to reach out to? What is going to be their local context in understanding our product? How does AI bring out all of this information in such a way that they get to understand it? Then how can I correct some of the linguas that sound very robotic in such a way that it looks as if a human is expressing their feelings to another human, right? So that is where the strategic work would really come in. I have never been an advocate when people say AI is going to take over jobs in the future. It's a lie. Because historically, we've had technologies from abacus machine to even printing press to supercomputers. This instrument creates more jobs rather than take away jobs, right? So why is everyone scared? You just need to update your knowledge in terms of how to use it, in which is one of the things I encourage a lot. Last year, I had to buy a course for every of the team members to say, you need to know how this thing works. Don't be scared of it, right? The popular saying is somebody who knows how to use AI is going to take over your job. It's not that AI is going to take over your job. So know how to use it. Know how to contextualize it in the kind of product that we're doing. Then you're good. So that's the way we do it.
Thank you. Please, a round of applause for him, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Damilola. I love that. I think, honestly, be a little afraid, but don't be very afraid of AI. It is a tool like any other. The onus lies on you regarding how you use it, right? We've spoken about ethical usage of the thing. And I think it's not just, I think you mentioned that as a company or as a platform, but I think even as a user, there's an ethical way that you can use it. We'll talk about that later. But Fiona, I'm curious, right? As someone who is a creative and someone who also hires creative talent, what would you advise, I don't know, folks sat in the audience who think, who are worried about the future? What would you advise them to do to position themselves to be more hireable and more employable in the future? So in the future that is wrought with AI and all of these interesting new technologies.
I think he's kind of touched on that in terms of one, really trying to train yourself on how these things work. One of my colleagues, Esther, is here. I hope she knows training 2 is out, the second AI module that they're all completing. But yeah, no, practice it, learn it. So for me, for example, I gave you an example of video producers. Content creators are people that we also hire at Pulse, right? So if you are trying to come in, we're going to talk about, the content output that you're expected to do on a weekly basis, daily basis, whatever that may be. One of the issues that we had with somebody in the past was that, nowadays when you go on social media, just a perfect example, videos have to have captions like on screen so that even if you're not listening with audio, you can see it, right? So the issue was that for this particular producer to get out the content, it took a really long time because he had to do the captions, right? To type out all the captions. This is something that AI does in seconds, right? And when we kept trying to train him to be able to do this, the output just couldn't get to where it needed to be, and it wasn't a good fit, and he had to go. Somebody who understands AI and realizes that they can utilize it to fix a deficit or a problem that they have is going to succeed, whereas somebody else who wants to try to stick to the traditional ways of doing things is going to suffer. So you may be able to get in through the door through your skills, but if you can't actually leap forward or proceed in the level that others are doing who are leveraging these tools to help them, to speed them up, to improve their output, you're not going to make it very far. So for me, as somebody who hires content creators, works with journalists, a working knowledge of AI is almost like becoming a mandatory requirement for us.
Interesting. Thank you so much for that. Folks, we're going to take questions in about 4 minutes. So if you have any questions, just note them down. We'll get to you shortly. But I was going to ask you, Dennismary, you, with all the knowledge you have about AI and building a content platform, what are some insights you've gleaned? What are some trends you've noticed since the emergence of AI in the creative industry?
Yeah, I think just the disclaimer I'm saying here is kind of on the personal level. I just sum it up in 3-letter words, AGI. Yeah, artificial general intelligence. I think that's where we're going basically, because where we are right now, you have platforms like Runaway LM that helps you just convert text to videos. And then you have Sona on OpenAI. And then you have Claude has this model, Sonnet 3.5. It has a lot of powerful stuff that it does. And when you look at, for content creators, right, somebody mentioned something, okay, you need to game up on this stuff, but there was a time the Hollywood guys went on strike over AI not being able to write scripts for them and stuff. For we here in emerging markets in Africa, we tend to have a lot of challenge where we get overflooded with technology. And most times, we kind of get the leftover of what is remaining from distance. And what we've seen at Circle is how I was mentioning something about content, creative blog. I think that's one of the key things we are researching into. And right now, if you go and type in create Africa video on AI, what it's going to show you just, sorry, my language, it's just shit. Doesn't make any sense. And right now, we're trying to train something we call Circle Companion to be able to allow you to give you a very realistic view of what's the scenario, the environments of Africa and stuff like that. Because many of these LLMs are not trained on African data. Yeah, they are just not. There was time Gemini was just producing total rubbish entirely. So I think that is one thing we are focusing on, right? How we can help creators unblock so they can keep creating. And then another thing we're also doing is on the part of analytics. There is so much AI can show you. You know, as platforms, we use this stuff to improve our algorithms. But what we try to do at Circle is to reverse that gaming and kind of give you that edge to see, I call it like an impact chain to see what your content is doing, not just, the views and the likes, but the impact it's making on people. And you want to turn it down to because social media is an emotional platform. Everybody comes with an outburst of emotion. So what we're trying to do with AI, specifically on the high level at Circle, is how to use this to make you create more, and also how to use this to, as a creator, to help you understand the kind of emotions your viewers are expressing. I think that is one thing most platforms don't do. And when you understand that, you know how to tailor your content and how to put it out there for like humans and stuff. And one of the scariest things we're also exploring at Circle is AI to AI conversations. Yeah. So, and when they mentioned about intellectual property and stuff, and they talked about how, you have to get a manager. We are moving to a creator economy where creators are like a big deal right now. What happens to you when you die? So that question, I think nobody's actually asking that question. So are you going to hand over your Instagram account to your child? Is he going to continue creating? So all these questions are something we're asking ourselves. It's scary, but yeah, somebody has to work on it.
Yeah. Wow, I'm so sorry. That took us to a very deep place. In local parlance, it took me to where I don't know. Wow. So if you have any questions, please signify. But before we get to that, so you mentioned something that struck a chord with me, which is that, honestly, Africans and African entrepreneurs, creators need to get involved at the ground level of AI, right? So I just want to ask everyone, and I'll start with you, sir. How can we as Africans influence the development of AI, right? Even till now, there's times when you type in, show me somebody robbing a bank. There's a certain type of skin tone you are likely to see with a gun, right? Compared to if you said, show me a happy family, for instance. And a lot of that is because, I suspect, of the data that all of this is being trained on, right? So just with that, with that background in mind, I'm curious, what are some ways that we as African creators can tap into the AI economy to help develop that economy and also make some change for ourselves as well? So I'll start with Adegboyega, yes.
Yeah, so I think that there are people who are called AI trainers or AI engineers or AI developers. So we just need more black people in that space. And these are the people, because AI basically just gives you what it has been taken from someone. I mean, you need to impute to it. It is apathetic, it's emotionless. So, I mean, if it has nothing to give you, it won't give you anything really. So we just need more black people in that space. And I think the narrative will change from time. Yeah.
All right, fantastic. Sir?
Yeah, so I'm going to build on what he has said. Yeah. I think for every emerging technology, there is a new set of skill that is needed to be able to make it work, right? So when you look at blockchain, for example, there are blockchain engineers, right? We also need engineers within the AI community, people who get trained, who have enough knowledge to be able to build products that fit directly into African context, right? Because majority of the tools that we currently have are from global to Africa. But how do we build products that are AI related, but they are built for the African context, right? I think that's one place we need to invest a lot of time in.
All right, thank you very much, Fiona.
And I think just building off that as well, one of the reasons why a lot of African countries also get left behind is because some of the population doesn't speak English or the languages that these LLMs are being built in, right? So we have these open source areas where I think a lot of tech people could build off of those, build stuff in Igbo, build stuff in Yoruba, in Hausa, so that it reaches a wider part of the Nigerian audience, and those people can also contribute to what's going into, what's going to be in the AI world. So yeah, it's great English. We all speak English great, but let's open that and actually make sure that all of our brothers and the other languages are being brought along with us.
Gotcha. So how many people here can speak Igbo? Show of hands, please. How many people can speak Yoruba? Okay, that works too. Thank you. So essentially what she's saying is there's money to be made. There is the future to build. So if you can speak your native language, you can produce content in that language, feed it to the LLM, and maybe there's a world where the AI is speaking Igbo to you as you speak Igbo right back at it, right? All right, so we have questions. 2 hands. Just one. Yeah, I'm so sorry. You guys duel it out. Fight it out. Who wins? Oh, gentleman. Love it. Please put your hands together for the gentleman. Thank you very much. All right. Oh, we're clapping for the person that left his question. Yes.
Okay, good evening. My name is Lawal Angela Lua from LASU. So, basically, you guys are just talking about the advantage of AI.
Sorry, ma'am, would you mind moving the mic?
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry. You guys have just been talking about the good impact of AI, but you didn't actually dive into the ugly side of AI on creativity and future of jobs. So
yeah, is there something that is there a bad thing you've seen in the past that like, this people did not talk about this thing? Yes. Please.
Okay. So, for example, we youngsters, yeah. So instead of trying to challenge our brain, we actually get more lazy because AI is there. So,
interesting.
Interesting. Why should I need to
why should I think
stress
deeply?
myself?
Yeah.
I don't need to think. I'll just go and ask AI.
I need to.
No,
Yeah, that's interesting. I think the same could be said of Google, but I see where you're coming from. You had mentioned something like that. I think you had mentioned the cure. You also spoke about it as well, which is you had a team member. So essentially the question is, AI might train younger people to be lazy. So what's the solution to that? Yeah.
Yeah, I think someone said earlier, AI can't replace people because the output just by itself, if you return something that AI gives you just straight out, it's not going to be good quality. You'll have something, but I promise you it's not going to get very far, right? So the beauty of AI is when you now get that output and you put your own creativity, your own thoughts, your own experiences into that response. So if you think that output is enough and that's the lazy attempt that you will go, I don't see you getting very far, and I think you will learn from yourself. So, again, the reason I haven't been so negative about AI is because I think the positives outweigh. But like I said, just with everything else, there's evils that can come just from Google, just from social media. Everything has their evils, but I choose to focus on the positives.
Go ahead.
So I think we're a very busy economy, and every time we don't get to do stuff, we think that we are lazy. Right? We always want to move from box 1 to box 2 to box 3. So when you sit down and relax, I feel like, I have time in my hands. I'm lazy.
Something must be wrong.
No, something must be wrong with me.
Yes.
But the future of the world is a point whereby you're going to be doing a lot more strategic thinking than doing a lot more implementation than our dad or we used to do in the early days. So just focusing on making strategic decisions is what you should learn how to do in the early days, even moving forward, right? So you are not lazy because you're not doing anything. Right? AI has just done the work you have done in 5 hours in 20 minutes. So you have 4 hours, 40 minutes to do other things.
To even do more work if you're so inclined.
Let me add to what the bad side of this thing is, because people are afraid of talking about it. I think the bad side for content creators is piracy. It's going to be very easy to get your content pirated. And I think that brings back to a conversation of, okay, how can you use the same AI? I mentor a company in Kenya. You use AI to manage intellectual properties for creators and arts, visual arts online and whatnot. So I think it's a responsibility of platforms as well, majorly to kind of protect their consumers, but it's also like a responsibility of the creators on their own end to kind of actively I think, I don't know who mentioned that, but I was sitting here mentioned about having management instead of managers. So you're thinking about hiring a manager in the future, you should get a manager that understands the landscape of how bad AI can be as well.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
All right, thank you very much. What was your name, madam? Ajola Oluwa. So I hope you listen to everything that everyone has said. And I think it's extremely important that as you think about what's the worst case scenario, what's the worst thing that could actually happen, that is a problem waiting for a solution, right? There's a world where as AI is growing and more people are using it to pirate things that he mentioned, there's also a world where you have folks who are growing to build resilient technology that can fight against those things, right? Maybe there's a world where Angela Oluwa is like a prompt engineer that has found a way to stop people from stealing other people's music, right? So don't just think of the negative side of things. Think through, how can I make this work for me? All right, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Please put your hands together for these fantastic people. Are we tired? Please put your hands together for them, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.